Hello, 8th graders. In this IXL video, we're taking a look at Y.6, which is called graph a line from an equation in slope-intercept form. And this assignment is a lot like Y5, where you had to graph lines. And the challenge here is instead of telling you start at this point and use this slope, they just give you an equation. So you need to tease out or figure out from this equation what is the y-intercept, your starting point, and what is the slope, how you're going to move from that beginning starting point. So here we know if we understand these notes, y equals mx plus b, whenever our linear equations are in this y equals form, we call it slope-intercept form because I can easily spot the slope and y-intercept. And in this case here, we know that the y-intercept is going to be the constant number, or the purple one here, the b, that's added or subtracted all by itself. So for our equation here, the y-intercept is going to be this positive 4. And then the slope will be whatever is multiplied, or the coefficient of x. So use m for multiplied, or for movement, you could think too, because slope describes the movement. And here I see that positive 4 happens to be the y-intercept, and also 4, or positive 4, happens to be the slope. So I'm going to start with the beginning point. If the y-intercept is positive 4, then that tells me my graph starts out at 0 and 4, or a y-intercept of 4. So I'm going to plot that point first. It's always where I want to start. If I know the y-intercept, plot that point first. And then the slope of 4, which is really a slope of 4 over 1, right there, is how I'm going to move or find the next point. So I'm going to go up by 4, from 4 to 8, and also right by 1. Every time y gains 4, it's because x gained 1. And that's my second data point. I went up by 4 units, and I went right by 1. Once I have 2 points, I have everything I need for my line. I'm just going to go ahead and click one data point there on the purple, another on the green, and there's that linear relationship. We're going to show a couple more, but this whole assignment is very much built on can you identify the y-intercept and the slope, and then use those two pieces of information to plot your 2 points. So again, here for this equation, give me a second to clean up the notes. Keep that there, just change. All right, so we don't know what the y-intercept is yet. That's really our most helpful thing to figure out. So I know that's the plus b, or whatever is added. And in this case, our y-intercept is going to be the plus 2. So our y-intercept, when I see that plus 2, that tells me y will start out at 2 if I made the x value 0. Go ahead and plot that as our first point here. And now I'm going to need to use the slope. In this case, the slope is, again, the m, whatever is multiplied with x. And in this case, we'll put a green box right around the slope, which is the whole number 8. As a slope, as a ratio, as a fraction, any whole number, we just put it over 1. So that tells me the slope is 8 over 1, or y will gain 8 units for every single 1x. Or the graph will move up by 8, from 2 all the way to 10, every time we move right by 1. So again, I took this y-intercept point, the beginning point, and then the slope says y gains 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, every time x gains 1, up by 8, right by 1. There's our data point. Click one on the purple, click one on the green. Now we have a straight line that goes through those 2 data points, and this represents all the solutions to that equation y equals 8x plus 2. We'll skip ahead. We're going to show you one up towards the challenge zone. And as this gets a bit more difficult, this one's wild. Okay, this is worth showing, actually. This is, in some ways, the simplest linear equation I could have, but it will trick students in terms of how to graph it. The equation says y equals 0. There's a couple ways to think about this. One of them is with our formula. The y-intercept is 0. This graph starts at 0 and 0. There is no mx, so the slope is 0. That means it never goes up. So if I wanted, I can plot a point at the origin. The y-intercept is 0 here. And the slope is also 0. 0 times x would be gone. Nothing. That's why we see a slope of 0. They don't even list the x. That means all it ever does is move left and right. The y is always equal to 0. The graph never goes up or down. So if y is always equal to 0, x could take any value so long as y is right here on the origin. So you just get a sideways line where y value is always equal to 0. These are definitely a bit trickier to graph. Glad we saw that. So I'd go ahead, click a couple points. Any points there, they're going to make a line that overlaps with the x-axis, because every point on the x-axis, y is still always equal to 0. We've never gone up or down. So that equation is the simplest equation. Y equals a number, and it just goes sideways through it, but it could be tricky to graph that situation. Okay, here we've got something that we're kind of looking for. We have a y-intercept of positive 7. Give me a second to clean up some of these notes. And so we see this y-intercept of positive 7 right there. And then we see a slope of negative 1 over 3. Y-intercept of positive 7. And then our slope is going to be this negative 1 over 3 that's multiplied with x. So we'll first plot the y-intercept. That's the 0 and 7 point. And right between 6 and 8 is where we'd find 7. So this here, the y-intercept is 7. Now if our slope is negative 1 over 3, negative 1 over 3, that means this graph will move down by 1. Y will lose 1 every time x gains 3 units. Or I need 3 x values just to make y lose 1. So down by 1 and right by 3. Keep following that pattern, but in the interest of time, you'll see now once I draw that line through here by clicking 2 dots, this graph keeps going down 1 and right 3, down 1, right 3, and it follows that path. If you need any help, as always, please feel free to send me an email. We think you're in great shape if you're on Y6 working through this, but it does get challenging, so please feel free to reach out and ask for more help. This video didn't get you all the way there. Keep up the great work. Thank you for watching to the end.